Welcome to the Reduce Cyber Risk Podcast, where we give you the tools you need to meet your regulatory requirements while helping keep the evil hacker horde at bay. Hi, my name is Shon Gerber, and I'm your host for this action-packed, informative podcast. Join me each week as I provide the information you need to best protect your business and reduce your company's cyber risk. All right, let's get going. Okay, in this episode, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity insurance and some key aspects you need to know as you're putting that within your business. Now, the one thing I've always struggled with insurance is basically the premium aspect, right? They make it sound so wonderful. This is a premium you're getting for your business. Well, I don't know much about being very much of a premium, but the interesting part, though, is you got to pay it, right? So it's more of an expense, but it's not really a premium. It's a premium expense. That doesn't sound too right. It doesn't sound right. But the one thing you got to consider is that when you are looking for insurance for your business, that is cybersecurity insurance, something that you can put in place that will substantially reduce the cost of your insurance. And that's the documentation around security practices and best practices that you put in place. If you do this documentation and you have these things in place, that's just like, it's like having the good student discount on your insurance policies. That if you do these things and you can prove them, in many cases it will dramatically reduce your premium costs that you have to spend for the cybersecurity insurance for your business. And that's the interesting part about all that is that, but you have to know what good looks like. And I'm going to be putting out some training around cybersecurity standards and frameworks, and that will give you a litmus test on what really is, what good would potentially look like. It's not going to be all-encompassing, but at the end of the day, if you don't know anything about this, so let's just say, for instance, your whole job is to build this widget, and you're really good at building a widget. Well, you probably don't know much about cybersecurity. So we're going to put these frameworks in place so that you can use them to help you reach some level of acceptable risk as it relates to the security within your business. And that'll help you to understand what does quote-unquote good look like. So one thing to consider is the prices will fluctuate a lot based on the news. So if you get something that happens within the news that somebody's been hacked, Bill's been hacked, so on and so forth, that price of that insurance is going to fluctuate. As an example, this is a few years back, but the Anthem breach, and there was lots of public data that was compromised during this breach. Well, there was a 40% variance in the pricing the moment that thing hit. Okay, and now granted, cybersecurity insurance has also morphed over time. So back when that hit was probably about 4 years ago. Now it's in a situation where there's more and more policies out there. And so you need to decide when you want to buy. Now, if all of a sudden everything hits and there's a big hack, do you buy at that time your cybersecurity insurance? Well, maybe, maybe not. If you don't buy, you're vulnerable. But if you do spend, you may overspend for that same level of insurance. Also, the other thing to think about is there's price negotiations. You can negotiate the price that you're trying to accomplish with your cybersecurity insurance. And you can use things like having a security framework, having other things in place, maybe a security person on retainer for you that you can put down as I have some protections in place. So versus being a business that doesn't have anything, you now go to these companies and say, you know what? I've got a guy that's on retainer. So a security professional is on retainer for me. And I've also got a security program in place or I have put a framework in place that is watching what I do. So I know what my access is. I know who has access to this stuff. I know, do I have a antivirus program in place, so on and so forth. If you have those things that you're using, you can then go back to the insurance company and see if you can get some sort of discount around that space. And the one thing that's around the cybersecurity hacks that are occurring is that even though they are happening, there isn't a lot of actuarial data. So basically, actuaries are the people that understand risk as it comes to the insurance space. Well, they know how often a tornado hits in Kansas, which has actually gone down quite a bit. But they know how often that occurs. They know how often a tornado or a hurricane may hit an area of the country or of the world. They understand that, so they can therefore plan out that risk for those insurance rates. Well, cybersecurity is still up in flux, and as more and more breaches occur, that's also going to change the policy and the pricing around that policy. So some things you need to think about as you're looking at a policy and some potential costs that will quickly go beyond what a potential lawsuit would be. So again, that's what a typical security policy might be around the lawsuit or around what the breach mitigation pieces of that are. You have to pay so much per disclosure of a certain record, whether it's privacy information and so forth. But there's other aspects and other costs that many times people don't consider unless you're in the cybersecurity world or you understand that vernacular. One is incident response. Do you have a plan in place to deal with your incident response? Are you hiring somebody, bringing somebody from the outside to go do that? Some really good vendors that will do that for you, but that'll cost you, and it can cost you some big money. Forensics experts. Okay, so now you've been hacked, and you got to bring somebody in to actually find out what was compromised. That's an additional cost above and beyond what it would cost just to tell everybody that you've been hacked. New equipment. If the equipment's so bad, you got to get new equipment, and it's just destroyed. That'll cost you something. Credit monitoring, and that's kind of the given. The credit monitoring piece of this, I'm going to pay for Experian credit monitoring for you, all the accounts that have been hacked. In reality, that's a placebo. But they have to do it, right? It shows the public that you're doing something. Reputational loss. That's, in some cases, can't be totally measured in the fact that if you get hacked and you lose all of your data, and if your business is all about data, so we'll use an example of, not Experian, forgot it. The recent, the recent hack that occurred within I just lost it. The credit agencies, okay? They ended up getting hacked, and that affected their bottom line. It affected what they do because their whole business is all about data. So that breach is one that they have to be aware of. Rebuilding and recovering your network. Okay, so now your network's been hacked. You don't know what to trust, what you can and what you can't trust. So now you may have to rebuild it from the ground up. So that's a cost that you're not really necessarily thinking about. So this episode was just a real brief introduction of some key aspects you need to be aware of as it relates to cybersecurity insurance for your business. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.